Okay, this video is just a demonstration really showing how I'm integrating the use of a Stream Deck XL button device into my flight simulator setup. I'll just give you a little quick tour around the setup as it is at the moment. You can see on the main screen here I'm using the iFly 737 Pro and this is running in P3D version 4. I've got a couple of monitors down here which are the undocked screens, although because in the iFly Pro edition they're not actually undocked, they run as a separate client, and so the all of that overload from running gauges and trying to undock them using the Pro edition, you actually run separate clients on various PCs, and then you can have all of the flight display instruments separated. I've got an iPad which is running the CDU, and this is running using an offloading program, which I can't for the life of me remember what it is now, but it's one of those sort of iPad apps that you can get, which allows you to interface. This one allows it both the iFly and the P3D737. I've got someone will recognise this. This is the honeycomb yoke that I've got here, and I've got a honeycomb throttle system which I waited a year for, but eventually it arrived, which was very nice. And you can see mounted on top of this, it's not actually mounted in any way, it just sits there, is one of my Stream Decks. This is a Stream Deck XL, and on this side you'll see I've actually got another couple of Stream Decks here. These are a couple of the Stream Decks, 15 button Stream Decks. These I bought in auctions on eBay, because once I started using the Stream Deck I realised that it's actually got a fantastic potential to be able to really build almost a complete flight deck, apart from obviously the usual controls, just using these button boxes. Just a rest of a tour. I don't really actually need to use the Stream Deck because, as you can see here, I've got a pretty comprehensive hardware setup. This is the hardware for things like the do some light tests and things. You can see it's all functional. This is for the 737 setup, but I've got some extra panels up here which I made. All of this stuff I made myself. I used my laser cutter and using the standard MobiFlight interfaces using Arduino cards. So this is for a 777 that I can use with the PMDG 777, which works pretty well. And on this side here I've got another range of hardware. This is all the rest of the overhead for the 737, plus the fire panels and pedestal and all that sort of stuff. All very small of course, but it's all very functional. If I go in here and just do a lights test here, you can see everything works very well. All the switches are functional, using gauges here that I've got for the LCD displays for all of the stuff that comes out. But this wasn't really the point of this video. It's really to show you what this Stream Deck can do, and what I'm proposing to do, actually just as an experiment, really to try to integrate this into my setup so that I could actually run the full overhead, MIP and all of the rest just from these button boxes, because it's immensely powerful. Once you get started with this, you realise it works very, very well. Just to complete the process, by the way, up here I've got some other components. I've got some Cytec radios, I've got a Open Cockpits MCP, and I've also got the Cytec backlit information panel. And if I just do a test on that, you'll see that all of the lights come up on there. So I've got that programmed as well to act as just general displays. Really, it works pretty well. They're very difficult to get hold of. They're like hound's teeth now to get out of. You just can't get them. The reason being is because they are so well adopted. There's virtually no chance of buying them second hand, and in fact they've not been available as new, I think, for some years now. So there's quite a lot in this cockpit which works. I've also got over here, I've got instructor station, which works pretty well, and I've got a spare monitor up here, which I use this for undocking other copies of the various gauges and the flight instrument displays when I'm running, just to give me an extra sort of heads up really on some of the other things that happen in the cockpit. But essentially, I fly this without any of these on-screen displays. I just have the outside view, and then all of my hardware that I've got around sorts out all the rest of the stuff. But let's just have a look here at this Stream Deck, because what I've done here, I've just set up this one in a very basic way. It's not really doing much more than just acting as a, I suppose, as a sort of an annunciator setup at the moment. As you can see here, if I just zoom in on here, I've got some various sort of buttons set up to do various things. And if you look at the screen here, this is in the simplest sense. If I just go back into the main cockpit here and show you what's on the screen here, if I select any of these buttons down here along this row, these brings up the various panels. So if I sort of captain, you know, I don't know, let's go for the captain CDU, and then on the screen here you'll see it will pop that up. If I press the button again, it puts it away. So this is a pretty easy way of getting to the various display panels on the iFly if you need them. But of course this would work with any cockpit. Now this doesn't do it on its own, and that's the important thing. The Stream Deck software that you get when you buy one of these devices, to be perfectly frank, is pretty useless for flight simulation. It's more designed for the sort of thing that, you know, we're using for video streaming and all of that. That's what the actual unit was set up to do. That's what it was sold for. That's what it's actually used for. They're not cheap. You know, this one here, the 32 button one I've got, is oh well, it's you know, it's top end of 200-300 pounds. But they're extremely well made, beautifully engineered, very reliable, very functional. It looks good, it's compact, it works. But as I said, with the Stream Deck software that you get, which is more designed for integrating it into controlling PCs and say streaming software and, you know, Photoshop and all that sort of stuff, it's not much use. There are a couple of plugins that people have come up with that allow you to use virtual joysticks with the buttons and things, but it's not very functional. What I'm using though is a remarkable piece of software which you may very well be very well aware of, which is, I'm just putting it up on the screen now, which is the Spad.next software. And this is my copy of the Spad.next. It's the full pack. It's got all of the everything in it. It comes in various flavors, the Spad.next. To control the Stream Deck panels, you actually need the sort of the full pack version, I think, which is about 60 quid or something. But with this, the world's your oyster with regards to using the Stream Deck in your cockpit, because what the Spad.next does, as well as supporting all of the things like the SciTech panels and all of that sort of stuff, and my backlit information panel, all of that, and the throttles, and you know, the whole thing on hardware, what it also does, it gives you really excellent access to all of the functions in the flight simulator, and you can relay that back to things and events which will happen on the Stream Deck and displays as well. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, I'm just sort of opening the window for you here and just showing you. So basically what you do, the Stream Deck is identified by the various software, and you can see in here I've actually got three various Stream Decks. I've got my two 15 button ones and my main one here, the 32. We're looking at the 32. If you just click on any one of these buttons, let's say, I don't know, what should we go for? Yeah, parking brakes. Okay, so you can see now that I've got a light lit up there showing me that that is active. If I look at actually one of the device myself, you can see that my parking brakes light and the annunciator at the end there is showing it as being lit up and working. Parking brakes, it's actually red in real life, but under this lighting with the camera, it comes up as a yellow, but it is actually red. What you can also do now is you can start doing things. So if I press this parking brakes button, it puts my parking brakes on the aircraft off, and if I put it on, it puts them on, and you can see that on the bottom screen here. You'll see that parking brakes on, parking brakes off. Very simple, but how's that done? Well, if I click on that button, it will show you down here on the Spad.next, but it will show you the programming that's in here, and basically it's just simply using data and events. So on the button defaults, this allows you to create some text and things which will come out on the button and such like, and colours and everything, but also down here it allows you to add events. So if I press the button here for a short time, as I'm saying here, it will toggle put the parking brakes, and it will basically toggle that event. So short press, it will put the parking brakes on, press short press again, it will put them off. But when it does that, there's also some other things here that it can use. So if you set it up as an event to look at what the parking brake light status is in the iFly 737, and it says it changes it to 1, it's on, it can then do other things. And in this case, what it does is it turns the colour of that button to red. And similarly, when it's off, it turns the colour to black. So very simply, I've just got an annunciator, if you like, built into the button. Well, that's pretty straightforward. You know, it's nothing sort of really hard coded on that. If I look at some of the view buttons I've got here, you know, if I go to flying off, so what this will do here, if I select this one here, and the programming for that's very simple, it just sends an FSUIP panel selection event. So it will just say, okay, if that button's pressed, it will bring up whatever panel 3 is in the plane that you're flying in P3D version 4. Again, nothing very spectacular there. Useful, but not spectacular. Where the real fun comes, though, is when you start getting deeper into the programming here. So if I now go to, let's go to the captain's MIP here, yeah, and look at this. What you can see here is I've got another load of buttons which are defined. And one of the things here which I've got is the lights test. You can probably see that. I'll just zoom out a little bit here just so that you can see a better view of the panel. So this lights test here, panel lights test, if I press that, you can see now it's doing the annunciator test. And if I look around the rest of my cockpit, you can see all of that's working. So it's showing all of that stuff on the, but also it's also showing all of the other annunciators that I've got set up on the Stream Deck itself. Turn that off, lights test off, and here what I'm using is 2 different kind of presses. A short press puts the lights on, and a longer press turns them off. So this isn't a toggle in this case, this is a definite on off event. And actually you can have 3 different events, because you can have a short press on, a longer press, which is more than half a second, and then you can have a held, which is sort of greater than 2 seconds. So each of those can be discerned as a separate press. So you could have 3 events tied into that, depending on whether you press it in any of those 3 conditions. What you can also do is you can also do sort of if events. So you could press it and it would be a short press, and it would do something if something else was active in the sim or something like that. So, you know, it's a remarkable piece of software, in as much that you can actually spend quite a lot of time setting up these buttons to do a whole range of things. One of the other things which you can do, as I've done here, is I've simulated a sort of an increase and decrease. Yeah, so in the display unit, or let's look at the auto brake. If I press on the auto brake, it puts it on auto brake 1, but what you can also see is that the data is being shown actually on the button as well. So if I increase the auto brake, I'm now auto brake 2, auto brake 3, auto brake max. On the other button, knock it down, 3, 2, 1. So using those 2 buttons, not only do I control the auto brake, but I can also display what the auto brake value is. And you do that simply by extracting from the sim itself, in this case the iFly 737. If I look at that auto brake and look at the coding for that, you can see down here there's a number of functions which I've said, and just simply here is if the auto brake status switches at 2 in the sim, then it will put a display up 1, which shows me that it's actually at that position on the switch. Now that's all pretty good, but you can even get more sophisticated than that as well. So let's go down here and have a look at this again. And I'll now go into one of my other screens here. Which one shall I choose? Let's go back to this one. This is an interesting one as well. So what I've gone now is this is further down on the, if you remember, on the MIP panel. And you can see I've got some data here, which is showing. N1. This is the N1 value set for the engine, and speed ref value as well. So if I look at the N1 value, currently in the sim, the N1 value for the engine is 100.5. 100.5. I can change that if I go to the setting on here, and then now I can go down or I can go up. So here, up or down, depending of course if I've got the thing at the moment. It won't do that because my speed ref N1 is set at auto, but if I put it to both up here, you can see I can go and I can toggle through the various both one, set N2, whatever. So I'll set it for both, off of auto, and now if I push these buttons here, you can see that the numbers will change accordingly. I know 1.2, knock it down. So again, that gives you control over those sort of rotary switches that you have. And it's all just done by button presses. And it's all controlled by, so this excellent piece of software, the Spad.next, which allows you access to all of this stuff. So what I'm going to be doing over the next sort of few weeks or so, I'm going to be building on this. I'm going to go sort of try to, if I go back down to my main pattern here, I can pull up any number of different pages. This is the page that I use for doing my, for the control of the FSs. So I've got the captain's FS here, again with all the buttons and things there. Range, if I increase the range, it will change. You can see this here going up and down, all of that. All very, very complicated to look at, but quite simple once you get into it. So I said my ambition really is to just keep working with this and end up essentially controlling the whole plane from these Stream Decks. I could do it all from a 132 because there's an infinite number of buttons. All you do is you just keep creating new pages. So if I wanted to, if I go to back to where I start from, this is sort of called this page 1, I could go to page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, any number of pages, and each one of those pages can have 32 buttons acting with different displays and doing different functions. What I'm intending to do is to work on the basis that I want to sort of couple not only my XL, the 32 button one, but also with the these other couple of Stream Deck 15 button ones which I've got as well, which you can see over here. And what I've actually got set up for this at the moment, if I go into my IRS control here, so you know we can see here the IRS is showing the actual position of the north and south, the northwest, southeast display on the IRS, but also when that comes up, I've got it programmed so that it also brings up the keypad on this one. So now I can use this one as the keypad to be able to enter data in certain positions and such, like in the same way that you would on the real plane, or if you had a hardware set up for it. Okay, so that's it for now. I'm not going to carry on with this much longer now. I'm just going to sort of finish off this video, but in the time to come I'll be adding more of what I've been doing, hopefully get a little clearer idea. But what I want to try to do is, if other people are using this Stream Deck, to get your ideas from it as well. And you know, that's why I've created this little group. If anybody wants to contribute to that, then you're more than welcome to do so. So that's it for now.